Bridget is the fire goddess. Smith, goddess of wisdom. At Imbolc she brings forth the infant son. Last year I was diagnosed with DCIS. That's when you have cancer cells in your milk ducts. And after an operation, it turned out I had stage 1 breast cancer. But it was okay because after the second operation, the lymph nodes were clear, so I didn't have to have chemotherapy. But I did have to have radiotherapy. I had 5 sessions over 5 weeks in April in lockdown. Thank you, NHS. My sessions only lasted 10 minutes. What you do is go down to the cancer centre. It's best to go with somebody else. And you go into this great big room and get up on the couch. And there's an enormous, benevolent, gentle, terrifying machine. And the radiographers, they draw lines all over your chest and boobs. And then they leave. And if you dare look, the robot, it's a robot by now, with consciousness, looks at you with its great flat orange screen face. And if you dare look inside its face, you can see the cogs of its brain eyes looking at you. And they twirl and pinpoint sterilising, healing rays at you. And then you go home. Mistletoe for love. Blackthorn for dark power. Hazel for clarity. I'm pretty sure that I was told that a week after you've had the first treatment, it's working more intensely in you, so that over 5 weeks it all builds up. I was having some strange feelings and I mainly felt like I really needed to be out of the sun. And then the day after my last treatment, my neighbour was in the garden. It was under lockdown and she called me over to the garden and I stepped into the light, and as I did, I felt a shock on my face and a power run through me. To be honest, I think it was probably just a menopausal hot flush. And if it is the case that such a radiant, powerful, dark light goddess exists, fully equipped with all of the properties of omnipresence and omniscience and omnipotence and omnibenevolence, if she does exist, and if she has that ontological status of actually being part of reality, and if it's the case that human beings can know that reality with our mere human faculties of knowing, I reckon I experienced that in that moment, in the sun. I spent a lot of my healing time playing with stories, and look, I made a little Venus of Willendorf. Not sure you can see her in this light. If you look carefully, you might see that she's only got one breast. Luckily, I got to keep both of mine. But how do we story this? How do we story that women, for the first time in history, are having so many breast operations? How do we story for the healing of word and emotion and body and spirit? How do we story for this? Well, I haven't got very far, but Demeter was the harvest goddess. But the thing that she loved more than anything was mothering her daughter. And then one day, her daughter Persephone disappeared. Demeter was so distraught and so angry that nobody would help look for her that she closed down the whole of nature. Not even this worked. And she fell into a despair. She fell down next to an old dried up well and vowed that she would not move from that place. And it was at this point that she had a visitation from Balbo, the little belly goddess. They call Balbo she who speaks from between her legs, and she has eyes where your nipples are, and she sniffs out wisdom with her belly nose, with her little nose, which is where your belly button is. Demeter felt Balbo's hot breath on her ear, and when she looked up, Balbo spoke to her and cajoled her just enough so that she would stand, take Balbo's hand, and walk to the house of Hecate. Now, Hecate is the crone goddess. She always has a clean and cosy hearth, and she welcomed the two of them in. And she combed Demeter's hair, and she washed her hands and washed her feet all the time, listening, 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 and nodding, and laughing at Balbo's disgusting jokes. And the next day, Demeter realised what she had to do. Balbo is goddess of obscenity. She reminds us that when we're depressed, we seek out our female friends and we laugh about our bodies, our ridiculous bodies and what they do with each other. And if breasts are being removed, how do we learn to see in the dark? How do we tell this story? How do we grow our breast eyes back? These are my questions. I think there's something there to discover, but I'm not quite sure what the story is yet. I feel like I'm a blind man on the right road.
I think the right road is the method I might use to work with story and healing. And for me, one of the places these things come together is in the sauna. The night before my first operation, I had a gig booked down at Beachbox Sauna in Brighton. It was the winter solstice. My friend Jonathan did a beautiful fire ritual, then I stood there, cancer in breast, and told the story of Eros and Psyche. There is one part of this story that I clung to during the cancer healing process, and it's this bit. Psyche, the princess, in trying to win the approval of the Queen of Love, Mother Aphrodite, has to go into the underworld and beg for some beauty potion from Persephone, who has become the Queen of Death. Psyche makes her way down to Dis, where lie the breathing vents of hell. She squeezes through into the tight, hot cave and follows hell's breath down, 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 down. Finally, in the gloom, she sees 6 red lights. They're the eyes of Cerberus, a gigantic, terrifying, angry dog. She feeds him cakes and slips through the gates of hell, awash with gloom and misery. She made for the ferry dock. Chiron was there. She paid, and he ferried her across the river Styx. She ignored the cries of the poor wailing souls in the water beneath. Past the Isle of Medusa and right to the other side, she stepped out, walked straight, then found herself travelling across the poppy-filled Elysian fields. It was beautiful, tranquil. She saw a group of philosophers there under a tree, locked into dialectical reasoning, and there were comics weighing jokes. And then in the distance, the palace of Hades. In the gardens, she sat beneath a pomegranate tree, plaited her hair, and put up her yellow hood. And in through the wooden doors, to a vaulted hall covered in bats. Vultures perched behind 2 thrones. On one, grim Hades. On the other, Persephone, who kindly filled her cinnamon box with beauty preparation. She left, eyes lowered, and made her way back. Over the fields, another coin for the ferryman, and the dog slept as she slipped through the gates. She focused on the pinprick of sunlight and up, 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 up the stony path, up, until she burst out of the cave, heart beating, into Helios, the sun's shining rays. And as I told this story of down into the underworld and back up, I saw a hopeful journey for me, and the vision of stepping into the light helped me when they put guide wires in me, when the anaesthetist put me to sleep, when I got bad news, when I got good news, when after it all I realised that it wasn't over, for I had to heal and convalesce and recuperate and accept that I was changed. And as I told my story, my sauna sisters passed around scrubs and face masks and lovely unctions with scents that reflected the aromas in the story. Beautiful birch sauna whisks for healing. So I've got conditioner on my hair from this shell, and I've got face mask on, and now a little aloe vera gel into a salt scrub. Now, I always wonder if salt is the base note aroma for Aphrodite, goddess of beauty and desire. But she comes from the sea. And when she stepped on land for the first time, flowers and grasses sprang forth from wherever she stepped. So I think above that base note of salt, it must be rose and orange blossom and geranium that we smell. And I found this all to be incredibly healing, this combination of wood and flame and stone and steam and leaf and word. These simple elemental pleasures and the idea of them carried me all the way through the whole bloody lot of it.